It was one of those mundane nights, the kind where everything feels routine, dull, and comfortingly ordinary. I had just finished brushing my teeth and was rinsing my face with cold water. The bathroom was dimly lit, only the yellow overhead, light flickering above the mirror, casting soft shadows. I leaned forward to wipe off the water, and that's when I noticed it. My reflection didn't move with me. It was almost imperceptible, a fraction of a second, barely noticeable, but it was there. My hand came up to pat my cheek dry, and in the mirror, it followed just a breath too late. I blinked, looked again. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe my brain was lagging, not the mirror, but the image didn't feel right. I waved slowly with one hand, eyes fixed on the glass. The mirror copied me perfectly, nothing strange. Maybe it had been a trick of the light, or just my eyes adjusting to the brightness. I gave myself a small laugh, shook my head, and turned away. But as I reached the door, I glanced one last time over my shoulder, and my reflection was still staring straight ahead. It hadn't turned when I did. That was the first night I felt something was off. I kept trying to tell myself it was just my imagination. Our minds do strange things when we're tired, don't they? But that small moment lingered in my thoughts all night. It wasn't the delay that disturbed MIT, was the smile. Just before I broke eye contact, the reflection had smiled. A slow, deliberate curl of the lips. I hadn't smiled. I was anxious, confused, even afraid. But the version of me in the mirror, she was smiling like she was enjoying my confusion. The next night, I came back to the mirror, determined to test it. I stood perfectly still for several minutes, breathing slowly, trying to catch the smallest twitch. I lifted my right arm. The mirror lifted its left, of course. Perfectly normal. Then I scratched my nose with one finger, and there it was again. A pause, a delay of maybe a quarter of a second. The movement came, but too late. Then it repeated exactly the same gesture, as if making sure I noticed. I stepped back, shaken. It couldn't be real. Mirrors reflect light. They don't think, don't hesitate, don't react. But the more I stared, the more I felt like I wasn't looking at a reflection anymore. I was looking at something trying to be me. That night, I had trouble sleeping. Every time I closed my eyes, I imagined that face, those eyes, my eyes watching. From behind the glass, watching and waiting. I began to remember moments from my childhood, old superstitions, ghost stories about haunted mirrors, old beliefs that mirrors are portals, gateways. But those were stories, warnings passed down by people who believed in things we now laugh at. Except I wasn't laughing anymore. Over the next few days, I caught more glitches. When I brushed my hair, the mirror lagged slightly. When I tilted my head to one side, the reflection seemed to consider the motion before mimicking it. It wasn't random, it was intentional. Like whatever was inside that mirror was getting better at copying me, or maybe losing interest in copying perfectly. I tried showing someone. My friend came over, and I asked her to stand with me in front of the mirror. Nothing happened. Everything was normal. No delays, no strange smiles. I felt foolish. But the moment she left the room and I turned back to the mirror alone, the delay came back, and this time, the smile returned to Anne. This time, the eyes didn't match mine. They were mine in shape and color, yes, but there was something deeper in them. Something not quite human. My reflection was studying me. It wasn't just copying anymore. That moment, that delay in motion, that smile, that wasn't mine. It broke the rules of everything I'd ever known about the world. And once that boundary is broken, once you start to doubt your own eyes, your own reality, everything begins to unravel. I started keeping the bathroom light off when I entered. I avoided the mirror entirely when possible, brushed my teeth looking down, washed my face with my back to it. But even then, I felt it. That tugging presence, that subtle gaze. I knew it was still there. One night, I passed by the mirror without looking at it, and I could swear I saw movement in the corner of my eye. I turned quickly and everything looked normal, but there was that faint trace of condensation on the inside of the glass, not the outside, as if someone or something had breathed against it from the other side. I no longer believed I was imagining it. I knew something was in there, watching, copying, waiting, and every night the delay grew shorter. It started to feel like a game I hadn't agreed to play. At first, it was only small mistakes. My reflection would blink just half a second later than I did, or tilt its head at an angle that wasn't quite mine. These weren't things most people would notice, but when you stare into your own eyes daily, you learn every movement, every twitch. What I saw in the mirror wasn't exactly off, it was close. Too close. But it lacked something I couldn't describe, like watching an actor play your role with unsettling precision, yet missing the soul of it. The oddness was subtle, but the unease was overwhelming. I began studying myself, trying to beat the mirror to the mistake. I'd do sudden, unpredictable motions, quick snaps of my neck, exaggerated gestures, even made-up facial expressions. Most of the time, the mirror copied me perfectly, but not always. There were times when I'd scrunch my face into a frown, and the reflection would hold a neutral stare for a moment longer than it should. I'd suddenly wave one arm, and the reflection would do both. I told myself it could be my eyes. Maybe I was developing some kind of neurological disorder, something that made my brain process reflections incorrectly. But that didn't explain what happened next. One night, I leaned in so close I could see the tiny veins in my eyeballs, the pores on my cheeks. I stared without blinking. My goal was to catch it off guard, to see it make a bigger mistake, and it did. As I focused on my lips, I mouthed a random word silently. Wednesday. My reflection mouthed something too, but it wasn't Wednesday. It wasn't even a word I could identify. It was different. Her mouth moved differently. The syllables didn't match. My blood ran cold. I tried again. Hello. The reflection mouthed something longer, almost like it was talking back, or speaking to someone else. From that moment on, I couldn't look into mirrors without anxiety crawling up my spine. It wasn't just the mirror in my bathroom, the mirrored hallway in my office, the tinted windows at the bus stop, even the black screen of my phone when it was off. All of them became suspect. All of them had her, and she was getting worse at hiding. There were times I'd catch a brief flicker of reflection, not moving at all when I was or standing straighter than I was slouching, like she was observing me rather than following. One evening while brushing my teeth, I dropped my toothbrush. Reflexively, I looked down. When I stood up again and glanced at the mirror, I saw my reflection still bent over, like she hadn't finished the motion yet. Then, as I watched in horror, she slowly rose, locking eyes with me with a hollow, knowing expression. There was no surprise, no confusion, only cold recognition. I left the bathroom without finishing, and didn't return until the next morning. I started avoiding eye contact altogether. I'd glance quickly into mirrors only for basic things checking. If I looked presentable, avoiding deep gazes. I thought this would protect me, but it didn't. The thing in the mirror didn't need eye contact to get stronger. I could feel her studying me regardless. I began seeing her more clearly, even in peripheral glances. The reflection that used to be almost me was now undeniably different. Her hair sometimes moved when mine didn't. Her eyes looked too wide, too alert. Once her smile revealed one too many teeth. I confided in no one. How could I? Who would believe that my reflection was broken? No, not broken, occupied. Something else was mimicking me, poorly at first, but improving with every day, every movement, every little word I said aloud. She was practicing, perfecting. The most disturbing moment came late at night. I had covered all the mirrors in my room, but forgot about the tiny makeup compact I kept in a drawer. As I opened it, not even looking at the mirror, I heard a sound. A soft thunk, like a finger tapping glass. I froze. My eyes slowly drifted to the mirror inside the compact hand. There she was. Not mimicking me, not copying, just looking directly at me. Waiting, and then she mouthed something I could understand. Not long now. I started trying to avoid mirrors altogether, but it was impossible. They're everywhere, on closet doors, in bathrooms, in the reflection of windows at night. Every time I thought I was safe, I'd turn and catch her staring at me from some glossy surface. At first, it was just a present, subtle and silent. She'd mimic me almost perfectly, but there was always a moment, a delay, or a movement that didn't match. But soon, she no longer cared to pretend. She was there even when I wasn't looking into the mirror, and I knew because I could feel her. It started with my bathroom mirror, the one I had stared into since childhood. Late at night, I'd walk past the doorway and feel an overwhelming urge not to look inside. The air would shift as I passed, growing colder. The bathroom itself felt wrong, still and heavy, like the air inside was waiting for something. Sometimes I'd swear I heard breathing from in there, but it wasn't mine. One night, I slammed the door shut and threw a towel over the mirror. It gave me relief for about an hour until I walked into my bedroom and saw the reflection of the hallway window and her standing behind me in it. I spun around. No one was there, but the reflection had shown it. Not just someone, not a shadow, her. Me, but not me. Paler skin, slightly sunken eyes, her head tilted just a little too far. The moment had passed in a blink, but it stayed with me all night. I couldn't sleep, couldn't stop seeing her standing behind me, even in my mind. That image burned into my memory. Soon, even the phone screen wasn't safe. When the device was off, the black screen acted like a small mirror. I accidentally caught my reflection one night, and I swear she blinked. Twice when I hadn't blinked at all. My blood froze. I dropped the phone and stepped back. I waited, staring at the screen from across the room, but it remained still. Too still, almost taunting me. Things got worse when I started locking my door at night. I don't know why, I thought it would help. Maybe it made me feel like I had control, like whatever was happening could be kept on the other side of a locked door. But one night, the knob rattled. Softly, just once. Like someone had gently tested it. I sat upright in bed, holding my breath, watching the door. Nothing happened for several minutes, and I started to believe maybe I had imagined it. Then, mirror on my closet door fogged up from the inside. I hadn't turned on any heat. I wasn't even close enough to breathe on it. But there it was, a faint circle of condensation right in the center. I crept toward it slowly, heart hammering. I stared at it for a long time until something moved behind the glass. Her face, just inches from mine, staring through the fog, smiling. But I wasn't smiling. I wasn't even breathing. I backed away and left the room for the rest of the night. I covered every mirror in my house the next day, taped cardboard and blankets over all of them. I even unplugged my TV and kept my phone face down, but she didn't care. She found other ways to appear. The darkest moment came when I was in my room, middle of the night, and glanced up at the light bulb above me. It was off, but there, faintly in the curve of the glass, I saw a warped, upside-down reflection of my room, and standing just over my shoulder, unmistakably, was her. No details, just the distorted outline of a figure that didn't belong in the room with me. And then came the closet. I had locked it, always, just an old habit. But one night it was open a crack. Not wide, not dramatic, just enough to be noticeable. Enough for someone to watch through. I approached it slowly, with a flashlight. I half expected a prank, a logical explanation. But when I reached for the handle, the door opened slightly on its own, like someone gently pulling it toward them from the inside. I slammed it shut and moved a dresser in front of it. It didn't stop me from hearing her voice the next night. She whispered my name from inside the closet, and I knew reflections weren't the limit anymore. She was stepping out. It began in my dreams. At first, they were vague and blurry, just a mirror hanging in the middle of a black void. I'd stand in front of it, alone, unable to look away. My reflection would be there, but its expression was different. It didn't look scared like me. It looked amused. And with each passing night, the dreams became clearer, more detailed. She was no longer mimicking me. She was watching. Every night, she stood in the mirror with a look that said, "Soon." I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just a figment of my dreams. That somehow, through some crack in my mind or the mirror itself, she had begun to crawl closer. I avoided sleep, terrified of what I'd see next. But exhaustion always wins. And the night I finally passed out without resistance was the night the dream changed completely. I wasn't looking at her in the mirror anymore. I was on the other side. Everything was cold. The mirror's world was darker, quieter. I could feel a strange pressure in the air, like the space was pressing against my skin. I saw my own bedroom, the way it looked from the reflection. Except I wasn't standing in the room. I was trapped behind the glass, pounding to get out. She stood in the room, my room, smiling, her hands folded gently as if she'd been waiting for me to see. She turned toward the mirror, toward me, and whispered something that made no sound. But I understood it. "You've had your turn. Now it's mine." I woke up gasping, drenched in sweat. But the terror didn't fade like most dreams. It clung to me, lingered in my bones. The image of her standing in my room was burned into my brain. She hadn't just said she wanted out. She believed she deserved it. The following nights only got worse. Every time I tried to sleep, the same dream came, only more vivid, more real. I started waking up with scratches on my arms, with cold air in the room that shouldn't have been there. I kept my windows shut tight, my bedroom door locked. Still, I'd find the closet door ajar in the morning, or the bathroom mirror fogged. Despite no one using the shower, it was like she was bleeding into my world. I tried to reason with myself. Maybe I was losing my grip. Sleep deprivation could explain hallucinations, strange dreams, paranoia. But there was one moment that destroyed all my rational defenses. I was brushing my hair one evening, trying to ignore the mirror as I moved in front of it. And then I saw her, not just watching this time, but pressing her palms against the glass. Not from inside the mirror, from behind it. Like the mirror wasn't a solid object anymore. Like she could feel the edge, the barrier, and was testing it. Her eyes met mine, and I felt it. That connection, the moment where you realize you're no longer alone, not just physically, but in your own mind. I could feel her in my thoughts. I knew what she wanted. She wanted me to stop resisting, to give in, to accept that the mirror wasn't simply reflecting me anymore. It was offering a choice, one that I didn't remember ever making, but somehow had been made. I avoided mirrors entirely after that. I covered them, smashed one, but the dreams continued. In them, she began to reach out, her fingers stretching farther through the mirror every night. One time, she managed to grab my wrist. I felt her fingers, ice cold and impossibly strong, pulling me forward. I woke up on the floor next to my closet with 3 faint bruises where she'd held me. I realized something then. She wasn't trying to scare me anymore. She was trying to wear me down, to exhaust me, mentally and physically, until I broke. She didn't need to attack me in the waking world. All she had to do was wait. Wait until I was too weak to fight back. Until I couldn't tell which side of the mirror I was really on. Don't now. Every time I pass a reflective surface, I have to fight the urge to check. I'm afraid one day I'll look and she won't be on the other side anymore, because she'll be behind me. Last night was different. It wasn't just a glimpse in the mirror or a delayed gesture anymore. This time, I saw her not in the reflection, but in the room with me. I woke up around 3:47 a.m., drenched in sweat, the room colder than it had ever felt before. My breath came out in visible mist, the kind of cold that wraps around your bones and makes your heart race. Not because of the temperature, but because something deep in your instincts tells you that you're not alone. I sat up slowly, scanning the shadows, thinking maybe the heating was off or a window had been left open. But everything was exactly as I had left it. Windows shut, locked. No fans, no breeze, nothing. And yet the air was frigid, still, and thick with something I couldn't name. I was about to lie back down when I heard a soft creak near the foot of the bed. My body froze. I didn't want to look. I didn't want to confirm what my instincts already knew, but my eyes moved on their own. Standing there, just beside the mirror that hung near my closet, was her. No reflection this time, no barrier. She was in my room, on this side of the mirror, standing barefoot on the wooden floor. Her posture was wrong, like every joint bent slightly too far in the wrong direction. Her hair was matted, her skin pale as candle wax, but her face, it was mine. Not entirely, but close enough to be unbearable. Like a version of myself, twisted by grief, darkness, and time. She didn't move, just stared, and I didn't dare blink. My body was locked in a battle between terror and disbelief. I blinked once. When my eyes opened, she had moved a step closer. I blinked again, and she was at the foot of the bed. No sound, no footsteps. Just there, I shot upright and turned on. The lamp beside me. The light flared and flooded the room, empty. No one there. The mirror was in its place. My reflection looked back at me normally, but I wasn't reassured, because now, every time I moved, I second-guessed what I saw. Was that really me blinking? Did I just move first, or did she? I started waving my hand back and forth quickly. The reflection matched me, yes, but a beat slower than it used to, and then the worst part began. Every time I moved around the room, did chores, sat down to eat, or even reached for something, there were moments where I questioned whether I was the one initiating the movement. Was I the one brushing my teeth, or was she? Was the person I saw blinking in the mirror actually copying me, or had we switched? It started happening during the day too. I'd see myself walking past a mirror, and something would seem off. Subtle differences in the reflection. A smirk when I wasn't smiling. A breath exhaled while I held mine. She was watching, studying, and now I began to feel like I was the one lagging behind. I'd scratch my arm, and then suddenly boy, I just saw my reflection doing that before I did. Not after, before. It happened twice in one afternoon. That was the moment I truly panicked. Because if the reflection could predict me if she was acting before I did, then that meant she wasn't reflecting at all. She was leading, and I was following. I stopped looking at mirrors entirely, started covering my phone's front camera, avoided black windows at night. But I couldn't escape the creeping paranoia that I was no longer in control, that maybe I had been swapped, or worse, maybe we were blending together. I could still hear my thoughts, feel my body, but I began noticing habits that weren't mine. A new way of biting my lip, a tilt of the head I'd never done before, a voice in my head that didn't sound like me when I whispered to myself in the dark. She was inside now, and the terrifying truth. I don't know if she ever really left the mirror, or if she simply made me question reality enough to believe she had. Because now when I look in the mirror, she smiles at me, and I'm not. Sure, I'm the one smiling back,